Okay, hello everyone, welcome to Trolling with Logic for 19th of May 2013, 6 PM in the UK, 1 PM Eastern Time in the States. Just to let you know, today we won't be taking calls, it's the famous live PWNage, and our target today is none other than Wazulu, also known as Iain Juby. So, very quickly introduce my panel. Daniel Jackson.
Hello.
Teal'c.
Hi.
You should have said Indeed there.
Yeah, it should have been an Indeed.
Yeah, I don't watch Stargate.
Just say Indeed. Just say Indeed. Go Indeed.
Indeed.
No, deeper.
Better.
I just know I'm supposed to be the black guy because I'm the whitest guy alive. so how about Indeed, motherfucker? How's that? Okay.
Okay.
I've been racist too.
Okay. Introducing Vala.
Ooh, treasure.
And special guest today, DPR Jones. Welcome, DPR.
Indeed.
There you go. Okay, so format's fairly familiar. We'll be playing Iain Juby's video. Listen in. If you spot something wrong, just shout stop. I'll stop the video and you can explain why he's wrong. So is everyone ready for this?
I don't know if I've got enough alcohol, but go for it.
All right.
Video series. I want it to be an exhaustive video encyclopedia, in effect. And I called it The Complete Creation. Posted the first video on YouTube, which I was very frustrated with by the time I got it finished, and it became #5 most discussed video on YouTube within 3 weeks. So it was really encouraging in that regard. And I know Dr. Scudder and Pastor Scudder had asked if I could come back and do a lecture series for Dayspring. And so I contacted them and said, look, I'm spending 30 to 50 hours for every half-hour session here. If I'm just going to reinvent the wheel, why don't we do it here and record it? So I really appreciate the kind camera crews and this church for hosting this event. And I'm going to start off where I started with the original video, and that is just, #1, what is creation and evolution, and who cares? I'm a very practically minded person, and even with Christianity, if your Christianity...
He's not a practically minded person. He's a simple-minded person.
I was contemplating getting us to stop early on as soon as he started speaking, just on general principle.
Yeah.
If your Christianity, where does your Christianity cause your rubber to meet the road? How does Christianity affect your life? If it doesn't affect your life, why are you a Christian? See?
It doesn't, and I'm not.
With why it matters, okay? Now, first things first, creation and evolution is an attempt, they're both an attempt, to answer the 4 great questions of life. Who am I? Why am I here?
Stop.
Wrong.
No.
Stop.
No.
Stop.
Evolution isn't to do anything
Stop
to do with that. It's to
travesty.
understand the variation of organisms.
Is he doing the Eric Coben approach?
Yeah.
Yeah, they spew bullshit and baffle them with it.
Is he going to say cosmic evolution and, what is it, stellar evolution, chemical evolution, and biological evolution are all things of faith, I think?
I don't know if he does it in this video.
Oh.
DPR, did you have a point there?
I think it's the same point that Womble made, namely that evolution deals with only one thing and one thing only. I don't know what he's about to say, but I just know it's going to be wrong.
Yeah.
Why am I here? Where did I come from? And where
Stop.
am I going?
I told you so. I'm sorry. Nothing to do with fucking... I'm sorry. Nothing to do with evolution.
Oh, no.
End of. Carry on.
The 4 great questions of life. Now, evolution attempts to explain this without
Stop.
the Creator God.
No, the reason I said stop there was you would have seen in the background he's got his dinosaur eggs. Some are in a circle and some are in a straight line. Pothooder 54 did a wonderful debunking of this nonsense, but
You
basically
can't lay an egg while you're running.
I know that if he comes to it, I'm going to preemptively say this. he's going to say that the ones in a straight line are evidence of the flood because the dinosaur laid eggs as it was running away from rising water. I kid you not. Anyway.
I think
I
we've all heard
watched
that
this
one.
earlier. No, he doesn't, thankfully.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
No, it's a good thing to pick it up, though. It's always good to remind people why he's wrong.
This without a creator God. I'm going to justify that statement later on because there are a number of people out there who believe that evolution can be fit into the Bible.
I got to say it now. We don't believe, we accept, based on evidence.
No, I was going to raise a slightly different point. That jacket is just wrong.
There's a reason he's called Crocodile Fundy.
Okay.
Into the Bible, that evolution can be fit into Christianity. I'm going to show you over the next several days why that's just simply impossible. Why that's bad science and bad theology. Okay, it's horrible theology and horrible science. But most people don't.
Since when was evolution theology? Is that what he's referring to?
No, he was referring. He thinks that it's impossible to accept evolution and be a Christian at the same time. It's bad theology.
Well, I don't think they give a shit if they believe both, do they? They accept the evidence.
Well, I've come across plenty of Christians who accept evolution, and they don't seem to have a problem with it.
Yeah.
The only issue is, do you have to take Genesis literally? And there are plenty of versions of that, which basically you interpret it as, well, it's the fall of man is actually an allegory for just human nature being flawed or something, and that's why Jesus was necessary. So it works. If you're a Christian, you're gonna make it work.
But most people don't stop to think about it, so we're going to cover that. Evolution claims that the universe and planets basically arose from a giant explosion.
Stop.
The big...
Stop.
He's mixing, astronomy and
He's
cosmology
doing
and that
cosmic
with biology. No.
Yeah. Now, I mean, evolution
was
simply
that-
means. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, was that slide that just disappeared? Was that literally the one that Kent Hovind uses?
I think either that or he's copied the content of
It
it.
says 20 billion years, I think it said before I lost it. 20 billion years the universe began from an explosion.
No, it's 13.7 billion years, and it was.
Yeah,
an
I
explosion,
know, but they
not
like
an
rounding
explosion.
up. Don't know why, but they like rounding up.
I have no
Yeah, but
idea.
if you're going to round it up, you round up to 14.
No, I meant they like to round up to a number that's divisible by 10, I guess.
Womble, you're
The
showing
Big
a
Bang
remarkable
some
ignorance
20
of
billion years
creationist
ago.
mathematics. If they're going to round up, they round up to whatever's
It's
convenient.
what it is.
Big
I've
giant
blanked out.
explosion.
It causes me that much trauma that to survive on a daily basis, I blank it out.
The funny thing is they got the Earth age of the Earth right. They got 4.5, but yet they say 20 billion years from an explosion.
4.6 is closer to.
Oh, I mean, still pretty good for how old is this video?
Oh,
Yeah, you got to give it to him. It's pretty good for a creationist.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, yes.
Because it's only a small number. It doesn't go into double digits,
Oh yeah.
relatively
Yeah.
speaking.
Okay.
What's a billion years among friends? It's around there, okay? The Earth cooled into a solid ball roughly 4.5 billion years ago. So you had this
Sure.
massive explosion.
Has nothing to do with evolution.
Not only that, it's not very cold. Actually, I'm sure Womble will tell us the temperature of the
Oh,
Yeah.
The surface temperature of the Earth, I'm not sure. I think the average is about like 15 degrees centigrade.
Yeah.
But that's because we've got the carbon dioxide blanketing the planet to give us, a mild greenhouse effect. But we're now spewing more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, and we're going to ramp up the temperature.
No, I was asking. He said it cooled into the solid planet. Cooled. You only have to go a few miles below the surface, and it starts heating up quite dramatically,
God.
doesn't it?
Yeah, well, the core of the planet is hotter than the surface of the sun.
There you
The geothermal gradient goes up, and it is in continental rock. I can't remember off the top of my head what it is under oceanic crust.
I think it's
So
20
in
miles.
continental crust, it's 30 degrees centigrade per kilometre down. So if you're going into a mine that's 2 kilometres down, that's 60 degrees centigrade.
That
you
doesn't
go
go
deeper.
all the
Massive
way down,
explosion.
though, right? It
had all this
begins to
molten-
rise exponentially eventually, right?
Yeah,
or
I mean,
at least,
it depends.
at a higher rate. Anyway.
It's going to depend on the conditions of the material inside. Solid rock is a pretty poor conductor of heat and temperature, but when you start getting into the mantle, and when you've got the really funky conditions, and you're talking about conditions where solid rock will flow, we're talking about masses and masses amounts of geological time it flows, but it still flows because of the really
plastic,
funky heat and pressure conditions.
Material, yeah.
You had all this molten material floating around space that gradually compressed, cooled into a solid ball.
Stop!
Now,
that is not how planets form. It's not molten
He's
material.
missing a lot, isn't he? He's missing.
It's gas that builds up into
stars formed around the stars. You know, the protostar, and then the debris that was.
It starts as protoplanetary dust, and then what happens is, this is in the gas nebula. It starts as protoplanetary dust. It then starts colliding, making bigger and bigger lumps. And as these bigger and bigger lumps start slamming into each other, they're producing.
Someone say it. Someone say it.
That they melt. Sorry, say what?
It. You know.
You know what?
What?
Do I have to?
Space station?
No.
Gravity!
Oh, that.
Yeah, these things are slamming into each other, and you get a magma ocean phase, but that's because the surface is so hot from all the impacts. But it's not like this massive ball of floating rock that's molten in space all the time, constantly. So
Yeah, we have asteroids and meteoroids that are solid rock, and they're not molten anymore. So yeah.
I think we
cooled
can
into
continue.
a solid ball, which now became Earth. Life somehow came about from non-life. In other words, life came from a rock.
Stop.
What?
Stop. But life is made up of compounds like elements and stuff. And are elements alive? No. It's their arrangement that is what we determine as living or not, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's not like not like saying, oh, this proton's dead. No.
Yeah, exactly. We all consist of materials that are not alive. It's the collection of it that is alive.
It's the arrangement that matters. Like, I mean,
and also the basic point of the material. You wouldn't have got the materials to form life coming straight from a rock. It would have been subjected to erosion and weathering processes before it was in a position where the matter, the elements, could be reconverged into whatever living animate object it became.
Well, I don't know.
And also, non-life does not equal rock.
Yeah.
Is he implying that water is a rock? I mean,
it's more of like a solution, I guess you could say. Early life would have been more like a solution.
Primordial soup.
Well, yes, but they'll say from soup to you, and they're like, oh, well, so did you know that your great-great-great-great-grandfather was soup? They'll say.
Yes, because my great-great-grandfather was made.
You know what I mean? Great times, blah, 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 yeah.
Where its life came from a rock. Think of it that way. Via an unknown supernatural process. Now, I offended a whole pile of evolutionists by saying...
Stop. Wait.
He have all the evidence for how it happened,
supernatural processes.
but it wasn't supernatural.
Yeah.
Evolutionists by saying that, okay? Evolutionists believe in the supernatural, they just don't know it. Okay? So again, I'm going to explain that why later when we get into the biology of it. And I'll show you there. I touched on that a little bit last night. It operates on genetic drift and mutation.
That supernatural explanation that he's talking about, it's called chemistry. And last time I checked, it wasn't supernatural.
Teal, he thinks chemicals can't come together is
supernatural. Oh, that's right. That's right. Oh, I forgot who we were talking about.
I bet he thinks I don't know, getting acid is supernatural when you make hydraulic acid. What you call it?
Yeah, hydrochloric acid.
Hydraulic acid. He's like,
hydrochloric.
Oh my God,
hydraulic acid doesn't exist. Sorry, nitpicking, but
I love to do that. I love to say, hey, Ian, here's one half of the chemicals. Here's another. Put them in your hand, same time. Let it burn through your hand. Was that supernatural?
No, if you really want to mess them up, you would use hydrofluoric acid.
Which is the one that burns through the ground practically. The one that pretty much will burn you.
That's just really, really, really nasty. But just really unstable.
I thought it was battery acid.
It operates on genetic drift and mutations combined with natural selection to turn a few simple organisms into the diverse, complex life we see today. So the key points there, genetic drift, mutations, and natural selection. And, of course, this took many, many, many hundreds of millions of years. Evolution is a slow process.
Stop.
And that's where we're going.
Stop.
I have to congratulate him. He almost got 3 things in a row correct.
Yeah.
Good for you, Ian.
Yeah, credit where credit's due.
He now needs to go lie down.
Yeah, I think my head's gonna explode by this this revelation.
And we have our first troll.
Start today, those old ages. Now, creation, okay, is of course known by a number of names: scientific creation, biblical creation, creationism, special creation.
Stupidity.
It is based on the biblical
intelligent design
of creation. Genesis chapter 1 in the Bible. There are a number of.
I'm just curious.
There's at the bottom of the slide he just showed. It said there was a global flood 4,500 years ago.
There's no evidence for one.
Well, yeah. Also, my question is, why does creationism need all these different pseudo-names, while evolution has this one pseudo-name, I guess you could say?
Because they're trying to complement. It's like, they say about people that drive really, really expensive cars, and how they're trying to compensate for, a lack of size in a certain part of their anatomy if they're male. And that's what they're trying to do. Think, hey, we've got more names, we're more important than you. And speaking of names, I've seen someone called Subduction Zone in the chat. Kudos to that person.
Someone's name Subductions. Oh, yeah, I see it. Yeah.
Number of creation myths, as they refer to them as, and we might touch on those a little throughout the series because they're kind of interesting. Myths usually have a basis in reality.
They're very uninteresting.
Did you see? Wait. Did you guys see the sign he had for Dinosaur Crossing?
No, I didn't.
It was right on the left, right on the right-hand side. You see a picture of a brontosaurus, and it's like Dinosaur Crossing. I'm like, Ian, if there's a Dinosaur Crossing, I think it's a bunch of ostriches. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Though I do hope they pick his
reality,
eyes out.
And they've been warped throughout the years as it's been handed down generation to generation. It gets changed and modified. Vishnu, the fish god, for instance, we're going to touch on that, and I'm going to show you why I'm convinced that Vishnu, the fish god, was actually Noah, and that they actually made a religion after.
Ooh. Yeah.
What can you say to that?
I mean, Vishnu isn't that Hindu?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know Vishnu was a fish god.
Neither did I. But
yeah, I thought he would mention Dagon. At least.
Vishnu
after
fish.
Noah. I'll show you why
I'm pretty sure he's
I
wrong.
was going to say,
maybe
Hinduism is also massively older than Christianity.
I know Vishnu's older. I know Dagon's older, but I'm just curious if he's just saying Vishnu to get the word vish to fish. I'm guessing maybe that's how he's doing it. Maybe.
Maybe Vishnu evolved from a fish.
Yeah. So wait, Teal, you looking at Vishnu?
Okay,
it doesn't look like it. It's the many-armed thing. That's not a fish.
Yeah, it's blue.
Yeah.
So where the fuck do you get the word? And the word means to settle. I don't understand how the fuck does. Let's see here. Right. Affiliation, supreme god. It's the head god.
Shall we carry on with the video?
Yeah, go on. Yeah, Ian's wrong.
Yeah, spin on.
Yeah, we know he's wrong.
Yeah, he's an idiot.
Creator God, whoever this creator God was, I believe it is the Lord Jesus Christ himself. I believe that is who the creator is, named by name in John. The creator God created the universe, the earth, and all life in a literal 6 days, roughly 6,000 years ago. Anybody know how we know it was about 6,000 years ago?
Because some idiot added a bunch of
you know all those long, boring genealogies throughout the scriptures that you gotta wade through? Why do you think those are there? They're there for a reason. God does nothing by chance. They're there for a
They're
reason.
there 'cause
It's
someone
so we
wrote
know
them down.
the history of the world.
There because someone was
precisely why
really,
they're there.
really bored.
And, of course, this is key. You all know the story of Noah and the flood, and we're going to touch on that today. In fact, that's going to be the emphasis.
Oh, yay.
In fact, that's going to be the emphasis of this morning. If there has been a global flood, which, according to the Bible, happened about 4,500 years ago, we should see evidence for that. That's not a maybe. This is a flood that covered the entire planet.
We should.
If it happened,
We
the
don't.
evidence will be there.
Stop
So
a
is there
second,
evidence?
please. I'm not sure that the Bible is evidence for a flood 4,500 years ago, is it?
The Bible, as I understand it, is
No.
only evidence for how much it's been edited.
No, but
There's no
even
internal
if you
consistency
accept-
in the Bible.
It's
Oh,
the origin of
okay.
the claim
Yeah.
that needs to be supported with evidence.
But even if you accept the Bible and all its contents, I don't think it is helpful so far as when the flood occurred.
No, it doesn't.
No.
I think that with the genealogy thing, you could find out that Noah's flood happened some period of time, but then you get that whole problem with exponential growth of population,
Yeah.
if you try to make sense of it today.
And also the fact there's no geological evidence.
Well,
for
that
flood.
too. I mean, if I remember correctly, Wobble, people in the 19th century believed the flood happened, but then eventually they said, "Oh, this is bullshit," because they couldn't find evidence.
There was a before going into the history of geology a little bit. There was a guy called Werner, who was a German geologist. He only ever went to one field location, so this should tell you a lot about him if we compare him to how modern science works. And he made an interpretation about a primordial ocean of which all rocks are crystallized out from, and then other stuff came later. And he went to this one place. Now, he was top dog for stuff to do with crystallography at the time, and he was rolling that to say this is how the world formed, and that was very a popular idea for a while. That was his theory was accepted as being Neptunism, or Neptunists, taken after the ancient god name for the Neptune, god of the sea. That was accepted for a while, but then it became pretty evident to quite a few people, not that long after this theory had been actually published, that it was actually wrong. And there was quite a few people that were going around basically doing the field work, gathering the evidence to say how this was wrong. One of them was James Hutton, who is the father of deep time. And although we didn't have any radiometric dating back then, even the geologists at the time were working out that actually the Earth is really, really old. So the concept of an old Earth has been around for a long time. And it's worthwhile noting that the early geologists that did the work that created the geological column were all Christian geologists, and they all accepted an old Earth as well.
I'm curious if he's going to bring up...
Didn't they sort of start out trying to prove
I think some
the
of
flood,
them did.
that a lot of it was about that, and they found that
That was natural
just doesn't
theology,
work?
right? That was natural
Yeah,
theology.
I think a number of them did have that kind of, we did learning all this evidence about the Earth. We're going to go find the evidence to support the flood, and they did what any good scientist did. They realised that their ideas were wrong, and they adjusted them accordingly to the evidence that they found.
Let's carry on.
Yep.
So is there evidence for it? Oh, yeah.
No.
Wait till we see it. Okay, now this is what creation science is not. I found I've had to clarify this because a lot of people think that creationism is a religion. Creationism is, for example, Christian science. I get that a lot. It's not Christian science. That was, I forget the name of the person who started that.
Fair enough. It's
cult,
not just Christians who believe this stupid nonsense.
But it is not Christian science. It is not, as much as the media would like to promulgate it as, it is not religion versus
It
science.
is.
Yes,
Well,
you're making
yes,
religion
on the
from
contrary,
that it
science.
is.
Science and the Bible interweave beautifully.
Stop.
And I hope this shows-
Stop.
He mentioned. Remember how he mentioned earlier theology and the whole accepting evolution thing? Didn't he just make it into a religion thing when he brings up theology?
Yeah.
So from the
said
start, he
stop
brought
because I
up
was
theology,
curious.
meaning it's religion.
DPR?
I was curious about science in the Bible because
There is none.
I can't really see it. What do you get For example, you get that the Earth is a circle. You get a cure for leprosy, which involves killing a bird and then using another bird to use the first bird's blood to coat walls with and whatever. I'm not aware of any science in the Bible.
And I hope to show you why over the next several days. It is, excuse me, I want to explain what I mean by this. I use the terms evolutionist and anti-creationist. The reason I do that is because the vast majority of evolutionists I've met and I know are wonderful people, good, honest people. They're not closed-minded. They're not stupid. They've just never heard of creation, and they've never heard of God. And many of them...
Well, anti-creationist, does that mean you're not a creationist? Is that what he's pretty much saying?
I think, to be fair, we could probably be described as anti-creationists because we do go on the internet and we rant about them and we tell them how wrong they are.
Well, yes, but
there's a lot of scientists that don't know about the batshittery of creation science or creation, whatever it is, and creationists. And you couldn't call them anti-creation just because they accept the standard scientific models.
But
and many of those people have attended my lectures,
that there would be people living in the predominantly Christian world who haven't heard this stuff.
Most people have heard of it.
Plain absurd. I live in one of the most atheistic countries in the world.
Finland.
Not Norway, Sweden.
That's not what
Preempted you there.
I said Finland.
Shut up. And I learned the creation story in first grade, I think. We just didn't learn it from we learned it as here's the story, not this is what happened.
Yeah, when I was, I can't remember what year it was in school, probably about 5 or 6 by modern schooly standards or something, about 10 or something. We did a little bit about creation overall, as in like origin stories, and we did the Christian creation story, we did the Norse one, we did Egyptian, we did a shed load of other beliefs and faiths and that, and we actually did a little bit of work as well on the scientific model.
Yeah.
Well,
but
since I'm an American, in I think it was 3rd grade, the only thing we never talked about creationism actually. The only thing we did talk about was Pangea.
Mm-hmm. Well, just like speaking of stories
that's not
like
the creation of life.
I'm just saying with the stories thing, that reminds me like Marty, you'll remember when we had Sonali Damaraku on the show.
Yeah.
And how he talked like he grew up an atheist, and he always said his English class was before his religious class. And he remembers saying he read about Cinderella in the English class, and then religion class came along and they spoke about Jesus. And he always said, I grew up thinking Jesus was Cinderella's brother.
I used to think Chernobyl was in Scotland because they were testing the Scottish sheep for radiation after Chernobyl went.
Alright, shall we carry on?
Yep.
The anti-creationists, for instance, many atheists, use evolution as an excuse. Atheism is their religion, but they can't have a God in their religion.
Stop! No! If anything's my religion, it's going to be geekery and sci-fi.
You're a Whovian. You're a Whovinist.
And there's lots of sci-fis that I like. If it was terms of sci-fi that I know the most about, it probably wouldn't be Doctor Who. Whilst I know quite a bit about it, there's other sci-fis that I could go into much more geeky detail on.
Star Trek.
Religion, but they can't have a God in their religion, so they have to come up with a way for how did we get here? And evolution is their lame excuse, frankly, to hate God.
Stop!
That's really...
No!
What?
Stop. He's doing this whole
How can we hate
presuppositional
something I don't
bullshit,
think
isn't he?
exists?
He's doing this whole presuppositional bullshit, isn't he? So.
Yeah, kind
It's like everyone knows God exists, so they're atheists are making excuses that God does not exist, or things could happen without God existing, right?
What he said there was it's the reason we have to hate God.
Well, yeah. So he's doing presuppositionalism in the beginning.
Yeah. All right, shall we carry on and welcome Jack O'Neill to the show.
Welcome.
Okay, it's Iain Juby, as you know, so just carry on.
That's really what it boils down to. I speak by experience there, okay? So there's a difference between evolution and an evolutionist and an anti-creationist. I'm curious, how many people have heard of the Raelians?
What?
Nobody. Well, maybe you have to be from Canada.
Oh, stop.
They come from...
I think he's referring to the people in Korea, if I remember correctly. Is it like the Korean alien?
No, this is the lizard people.
Yeah, those people. Aren't they from like Asia?
I have no idea.
No,
I have no idea.
All over the world.
I'm fairly certain the majority there are aliens to be found in every continent.
No, I think it's an Asian thing though. It began as.
I think it began as an African thing, actually, didn't it?
Give me.
I thought it began in the 80s when they introduced the TV series V.
Yeah. Anyway, I think we're getting sidetracked with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They come from Montreal, of all places, figures. The Raelians are, excuse me, a religious group, if you will. In Montreal, you walk into their building and they have a gigantic DNA molecule because they believe that you were engineered here by aliens. And that's where we came from. Now, at first, that almost sounds like an impressive answer to the question, where did we come from? It's not. It's actually an intellectual cop-out. It only brings up the question, where'd the aliens come from?
I'm going to stop it there. The projection is really strong in the sky at the moment.
Yeah.
What?
In fact, I think Commissioner Gordon might be about to approach him and ask him to book his appointments.
Yeah.
But actually, I just looked up Raelians. Their headquarters in Switzerland.
All right.
Oh,
So
shit.
I mean, yeah. So you guys are closer to them than me. Creepy.
That is really that. I mean, how?
So it all boils down to one of two things.
Sorry?
How can he actually say that? See, what the Raelians are doing is an intellectual cop-out. I mean, if the aliens made us, then where do the aliens come from? Like, I agree with him, but at the same time, dude, a little bit of introspection is required here.
Yeah.
That would require more than 2 hamsters on a wheel in his brain.
Yeah.
So it all boils down to one of two things. Either we evolved or we created. There is no third option.
Stop.
It rules out.
Hush. Hold on a moment.
I'm curious about this one because I have to say that I suspect I agree with him on that. Can anyone think of a third option that isn't totally fanciful?
No, I'm gonna say this. It's conceivable to come up with another option, such as, I don't know, none of this is even real, but that's like totally, completely off the wall. But
None of you can disprove the fact that it's the TARDIS an exploding TARDIS keeping us alive in the Pandorica.
yeah, I mean, regardless of whether or not you can come up with a third option, doesn't mean that there is not a third option. I think that's.
Well, no, I'm just trying to be as kind as I can to Juby, and it's something that I've sort of like pondered on, but only briefly, and haven't really reached a conclusion. I was just bouncing it off the others. Is there realistically, and leave aside all the suggestions we've had so far, is there a realistic third option? I don't think there is. Either we're created or we evolve.
I don't even think creation.
There could be. We could literally have been created last week or yesterday, for all we know.
Yeah,
but
that
the evidence, all the evidence, does not point towards any creation. It points towards a naturalistic thing, naturalistic processes. Because of that, we can only say it's naturalistic process. It could be any manner of creation stuff going on all the time. Yeah, it's kind of the thing of you could have an army of ninjas fighting another army of ninjas, but because they're both so ninja, you can't see them. And they could be doing it in every room in the world constantly.
I think that would still fall within creation.
That would be
Yeah. Yeah, but
anyway,
we can look at it this way.
It's not a significant point.
Yeah.
It's just I was curious.
We can look at it this way. Iain is not talking about just any creation. I think he means biblical creationism. or
I think that's a good
evolution.
is that when he says it's either creation or evolution, blah blah, or naturalistic processes as we would call it. He actually just means either Christianity, biblical literalism, or naturalistic processes.
And he turns it into religion versus science, pretty much.
Yeah.
From the get, I mean, the thing is, pretty much, you could say it's evolution versus whatever the hell fuck any other ideas until we get a better explanation for biological processes, I guess. You know?
Yeah, because he's not going to try to sort of falsify the Norse creation myth. He's going to go, there's creation as in his creation, and then there's evolution. And if you find something wrong with evolution, that proves God exists.
You do realize the funny thing is, we're talking about the Norse, and we have Stargate themed characters. If I remember correctly, weren't there an alien race? I forget. In Stargate,
yes, Guardians.
Yeah, the Guardians that
no, Asgard. They're from
Asgard.
Asgardians,
Asgard. They were the Greys.
Oh yeah. Oh.
Yeah, they were Greys.
Shall we go back on
in fact,
track?
the Greys weren't the Grey race. It was Loki.
Okay, shall we get back on track?
Yeah.
It rules out all other possibilities, exhausts all other possibilities. Intelligent design has been in the news a lot lately. Intelligent design, I'm going to go into very specific detail as to what it is. Contrary to what Judge Jones said in the Kitzmiller-Dover trial in Pennsylvania a couple of years ago, intelligent design is not creationism in disguise.
Stop.
He actually had a Freudian slip there. That is hilarious. Creation or intelligent design. Even he knows creationism. Come on. Stop being an intellectually dishonest douche.
Why? That was really fun.
Disguise. That is nonsense. And I'm going to justify that statement later on and explain what intelligent design is and why it's important. Lastly, hopefully by the end of this course, your, I'll call it your discernment skills, will be just a touch better. And hopefully I can pass off a few lessons to you I've learned over the few years. The SETI project. Has anybody heard of the SETI project? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so a few of you have. Okay. The SETI project, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. Now this is quite humorous. A lot of hardcore atheists and anti-creationists run around saying intelligent design is not science and it's creationism in disguise. Intelligent design is a scientific tool. And they then turn around and use the scientific tool of intelligent design in their attempt to search for extraterrestrial intelligence.
Stop! Stop!
That
is utter bullshit. That is pure bollocks.
Yep.
I'm not quite sure exactly what he even means by that.
I don't think he's just stringing words together.
Yeah, I've actually come across this argument quite a bit. That they say, we're looking for signs of intelligence using intelligent design ideas, like the signals and all that.
Ooh.
The funny thing is, though, these ideas that they think are intelligent design ideas actually were used before intelligent design was even a movement. Like if I remember correctly, the whole prime number thing and stuff. I think it was the sequence of that stuff. Like I think Behe even took that from the SETI project, if I remember correctly, because that stuff's been around for decades.
Intelligence.
Yeah, that's been around since the late 1800s.
I was gonna say 50s, but okay.
Nikola Tesla was the first one to, if I remember correctly, to suggest that radio waves could be used to contact extraterrestrial life.
You sure?
It's got nothing to do with
the
intelligent
1800s?
design.
Yeah, exactly. It has nothing to do with ID.
Non sequitur on an epic proportion.
He means the intelligent design of living organisms, not the intelligent design of radio transmissions.
He's a moron.
Yeah.
And that's being polite.
By examining space signals coming in from outer space, looking for intelligence in those radio signals. It's hypocrisy. And atheism is just loaded with circular reasoning and hypocrisies like this, where you say it's unscientific in one hand,
SETI has nothing to do with atheism.
And use it for that. So that's the SETI project. I'll come to all that back later on.
Now there could be
We
ideas
don't
that would
think
say-
that radio signals are intelligent, you moron. We're not
But, yeah.
looking for intelligence in the radio signals. We're
looking for radio signals as signs of an intelligent species. It's a lie. It's just like, using a some sort of ham radio equipment to try and pick up other people's ham radio equipment signals.
Yeah, but we're trying to discern it from the static, pulsars emit binary code in a sense, with their pulsations. I bet $1 million that if Ian Juby was handed a headset to listen to that signal, he'd be like, it's intelligence, and it's just a fucking pulsar.
Yeah.
I bet he would do that.
See,
Probably.
that's kind of one of the things that SETI does. Is they've sort of been able to parse out which radio signals they receive or send out and get like a sort of reflection back on. They are able to parse out which ones are just static, which ones are not, in fact, have anything to do with any sort of intelligence out there, and which ones may actually be. So, which is why we still haven't really had any positive results from it.
What about the
and
WoW?
it's also very underfunded.
What about the WoW thing? I think it was in the 70s.
Yeah.
Wasn't it like that WoW signal?
Yeah, and I believe that was a pulsar, if I remember correctly.
I don't remember it being called pulsar. I just know that the guy wrote on the thing. It said WoW.
Yeah. Yeah, because it was sort of thought that this could actually be from an intelligent source, because it demonstrated some recurring pattern. I don't. I may be
Even from a
confusing it with
pulsar, it's got more intelligence than Juby.
It's
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, as I just said, I think Ian Juby would have been the one that jumped the gun early.
it's a little off topic, but Womble brings up a good point. SETI has not had pretty good funding since like the mid 90s, because the United States stopped funding them in around like 1994, 1995, 1996, one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Back on track now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, I touched on this last night. What is science? I'll repeat it just real quick. It's testable. That's important. It's testable. It is observable. It is repeatable. It is predictable. And
Stop.
it is false.
Ian, just here's a little hint. You may not want to go through this because everything you're just saying kind of hurts your case.
Yeah.
I mean, creationism doesn't really fit in here.
It's not repeatable. It's not testable.
You can't. Yeah. You could repeat abiogenesis. You could create. You could make something that's a simple form of what we would consider.
Well, we have made an artificial cell.
Yeah.
We have.
I believe we have.
Yeah.
Well, like that. That's what I mean. Can you make if it's supernatural, you cannot repeat it, by definition, unless you have a phone line to this God saying, "Hey God, can you do it?" Even though that won't explain what the fuck you just did to do it. Right?
I mean, there's so many questions that arise from bringing forth either intelligent design or creationism or anything like that. It's just, it is the least scientific by Juby's own criteria of any sort of attempt to investigate origins ever. I mean, how did the intelligent designers do this? Well, they just designed it that way. Who are they? We don't know. We're gonna go ahead and just say we don't.
Clearly, the intelligent designers are the people that switched on their version of CERN and really messed it up.
I mean, I don't understand the whole thing. Like, to me, they want to use this action. Okay, this thing, intelligent designed it. Okay, you said a verb. What does the verb mean? What do you mean by intelligently designed? What did he do? What did the thing do? You just said he created it. Okay, how? They don't answer that how, do they? They never want to.
Magic.
Well, yeah, besides just magic.
Carry on.
Yeah.
I hear a lot of anti-creationists criticize creationists saying, "Oh, you're just discrediting evolution. Where's your evidence for creation?" That shows a misunderstanding of how science works.
No, it doesn't.
No.
That's actually exactly how science
Science
works.
is based
If
primarily
if there's evidence in
falsifiability.
one area,
Usually
and there's no
you
evidence
cannot
in another
prove something,
area, then
you
we
can
don't
only
accept that the evidence
disprove
in
it.
the and we don't
And if you
accept
can't
the
disprove
area
it-
that doesn't have evidence is better than the area that does.
You can't prove, you can only
And if you
disprove.
can't
Well,
disprove it, it
kind
must be
of,
true.
but
That is basically one of the main principles of science. So usually, if we're
whoa,
falsifying evolution,
we need to rewind this because people are talking over this, and yeah.
Well,
He just
and there was
basically
there was
said,
something there that I don't know in what context he was saying it, but he said if you can't disprove it, therefore it's true. I would have
Yeah,
a serious
that's
issue
what
if
he-
that's what he was saying.
that's what he said.
yeah, that's basically the line he was going with.
So basically, the whole thing of if you can't disprove there's a 900-year-old entity running around space-time in the blue police box, then Doctor Who must be true.
Yeah, as is the orbiting teapot and the fire-breathing invisible dragon.
Yeah,
And the spaghetti monster.
and the
And
two
every
ninja
single
armies
other god
fighting.
that has ever been imagined or conjured up in the human imagination. If that's what he said, I can't believe that he would have been stupid enough to said that.
Well, he was stupid
Well,
enough.
Remember DPR. He's in Mensa.
He was stupid enough to have that Freudian slip and be like, creationism or intelligent design is not creationism.
Let's forget that. Let's not forget that this is the guy that thinks dressing like Crocodile Dundee means that he can take on geology.
And let's also not forget this is a guy who still isn't clear on whether or not the Earth rotates around the sun.
Yeah,
Wait, he doesn't believe that?
He's on the fence. That's
I have
exact-
to address, if I may, quickly a comment that's been left by Cosmic Dust. You can't disprove the magic sandwich, so it must be true. Well, I know the magic sandwich is true, so let's not go there.
I've had personal experience with the magic.
The magic sandwich has a show. It must be true.
Yeah, I think we've all had a personal relationship with a magic sandwich. Let's go.
I ate it.
Does it taste good?
we are actually also presenting an argument for creation. The two usually happen at the same time.
What?
Okay.
What's?
Wait
If
a minute.
creation is true,
Okay, so
Can
he
we
said-
spin back a little bit? What on earth was he saying there?
He's basically saying if you disprove evolution, you've proven creation.
No.
That is.
Wait, did you read the slide that he just said? He's like, we should find life spontaneously arising. That
I don't.
doesn't prove creationism either. How can you tell that from abiogenesis if life was 3.8 billion years ago came about, and a billion years before it wasn't there? So it spontaneously arose.
Oh,
This is one of the problems that I have with these people who talk to a general public audience that aren't very educated on science and try to preach their creationist bullcrap. There's a lot of nuance when it comes to scientific investigation. There's a lot of changes made as new data arises. Things are called things differently because things are in fact different. So spontaneous life, we know, is not an actual thing. Spontaneous generation doesn't happen. There's a difference between that, abiogenesis, evolution, all that kind of stuff. And what creationists do is they dishonestly conflate all of it together and say, oh, it's all just the same thing. It's all
actually,
this
spontaneous life being formed would prove creationism.
That's what I just said.
I don't know if it would prove creationism, but it would certainly be really fucking weird.
Depends on what you mean by spontaneous. You know, like they say the Cambrian explosion is spontaneous. Remember?
Yeah, that wasn't spontaneous.
Yeah, I know, but that's
very
kind of what they
rapid.
like. You know,
That's the
20 million years is spontaneous.
That's the problem.
I think, if I'm correct, it was about 60 to 70 million.
Okay.
Yeah, possibly. I don't know the dates for it off the top of my head, but that 60, 70 million is very quick in geological terms.
Yeah, in geological terms, it was very quick, but in the
In
actual
chemical
the
terms,
Himalayas
isn't
are
that
disgusting
isn't
young
that
mountain
short?
chain at 50 million years old.
But isn't that short in chemical terms? Like chemical reactions and stuff?
Chemical reactions happen in split seconds.
Yeah,
It's,
so I mean,
it's different though.
yeah, I know. But
Different things in science have different time frames.
Okay, shall we carry on?
go ahead.
if creation is true, we should find life suddenly appearing in the fossil record. If evolution is true, we should find simple to complex life forms gradually appearing from bottom to top throughout the fossil record, and we should
Stop.
find no...
He's
Wait,
ignoring
what
the
is
fact that
simple
we
to
have
complex?
had 5 extinction events that have effectively reset life on this planet. So it
Well-
goes simple to complex, generally, but you have 5 major extinction events that have happened that have reset things.
Well,
So it's
Wombo,
not that pretty and simple.
Well, Wombo,
The real data never is, sorry.
Well, Wombo, but I mean, the extinction events didn't wipe out life to to cellular level. The life that survived kept going.
I know, they wiped out a significant proportion of life.
Well, yes, it wiped out a significant
I mean,
portion.
the Permian extinction event wiped out 97% of life on the Earth.
One at a time.
What?
Just saying one at a time there.
Oh.
Carry on.
There was one point that was made earlier on spontaneous generation in the chat room that I just want to point out real quick. Lithoded Man pointed out that actually biblical creationists supported spontaneous generation, and they used "let the waters bring forth life" from the Bible as evidence for spontaneous generation. So that's one of the fun things about when creationists say, well, spontaneous generation doesn't happen. And which is kind of weird because Iain Juby seems to be saying that spontaneous generation does, in fact, happen in the fossil record, and that's what proves creationism, apparently. But usually the creationists will say that spontaneous generation doesn't happen, and that's why abiogenesis is false, because they don't understand the difference between the two. Yet, at the same time, when that was still a prominent theory, when people were still saying, hey, this is something that happens a lot, let's investigate it, creationists were on board with that. They said, yeah, totally, that's how things are created. That totally makes sense with the Bible.
Okay, carry on.
Yep.
The fossil record, and we should find no out-of-place fossils. In other words, we should not find dinosaurs and humans together, because dinosaurs were supposed to have been extinct 60 million years
65
before people ever evolved.
65. Well,
so we should not find any evidence that the two ever lived together.
Stop. Hold on. This is another thing that's really confusing when it comes to creationists. Apparently, unless all the dinosaurs were extinct millions upon millions upon millions of years ago, that means evolution is false. If they are not extinct millions and millions and millions of years ago, then evolution is false. I don't understand how they get this. Like,
it could mean we're wrong. Could mean that the extinction event didn't kill all the dinosaurs. I mean, it killed a hell of a lot of them, but didn't wipe out all of them like the avian dinosaurs, the birds. The birds are technically dinosaurs, so it didn't wipe out all of them.
They're descended from the theropod chain.
Yeah, so they didn't wipe out, the extinction event didn't wipe out all the dinosaurs in quotations. It wiped out all the sauropods and all the...
It wiped out all of the organisms that we would instantly relate to as being dinosaurs.
I saw a duck in Florida, and I think that was a dinosaur. I'm serious. I don't. Yeah.
Some creationists actually have an exceedingly loose definition of what makes a dinosaur. Sometimes they just think it's a really large creature. That's what a dinosaur.
Oh wait, you talking about?
There was.
You talking about?
I can't remember who linked me to the atrocity that had dinosaurs as including things like mammoths and stuff.
Yeah.
At the end of the last ice age.
That was hilarious.
So, like, if there's large creatures around, those count as dinosaurs, apparently. According to some creationists. I forget if Juby's one of them.
It was Carl Blah, I think.
Also, well, Carl Blah is probably, like, one of the worst. But Juby's been on Carl Blah's show, so maybe they agree with each other. I don't know. Not necessarily true, but still. There's kind of something funny going on, and Lithoded Man pointed this out in the chat room as well. Everything that Juby has explained, we should see if evolution is true. We do see. So by his own definitions, evolution is true.
Yeah. All right.
Except for the universe is young. So.
Yeah. Okay, carry on. Carry on.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yep.
As an example, we should find evidence that the Earth and the universe is young. Because according to the scriptures, it was all created a mere 6,000 years ago, give or take. Now, just to throw this in, I know that the Seventh-day Adventists believe that the Earth and most of the universe is long, but that the cosmos themselves are very old. Okay, I'm not real clear, but I know they have a little bit of a slightly different perspective there. If evolution is true, we should see evidence that the Earth and universe are old.
We do.
We should see, now this is key, I mentioned this last night. In Genesis chapter 1, 10 times in the first chapter of Genesis, it says God reproduced things after their kind. And things reproduced after.
Stop.
Define kind.
Stop. Yeah, I was just going to ask
And
that. What
I
the
could
fuck is
say
a
I
kind?
deserve to win the lottery 50 zillion times. It doesn't mean It doesn't mean I will win the lottery.
You know, there was an interesting thing that I read the other day. A long time ago, back in like the early 2000s, Answers in Genesis and Ken Hovind got into a bit of an argument when it came to the Seventh-day Adventists and the people who believe that the universe is really old, but the world itself is very young.
You're just making me think of another creationist thing where the creation was a white hole. And that's just...
Apparently,
I thought
it's horrid.
Apparently, the discrepancy here is starlight travel. Light travels at a certain speed, and they're a certain way away. Now, Kent Hovind and many other creationists like Harbaugh and Iain Juby believe that the universe was created with the appearance of age. So the light was created sort of like mid-travel to Earth. And Answers in Genesis says, no, that's not true. And I thought this was the most hilarious disagreement between them, because Answers in Genesis said there's one thing God cannot do, and that's lie. And when you create light carries with it information about the past as it travels through the universe. So if he created mid-travel, then he'd have to make up information that wasn't there. In other words, information that wasn't true. So clearly, the light had to have been traveling from beginning to end. It couldn't have been made mid-travel, because God can't lie to us. Which I thought was the weirdest argument in favor of that ever. Like, it has nothing to do with science. It has to do with whether or not God can lie to us. Like, that's how creationists argue creationism. They don't argue science. They argue whether or not God can do X.
But here's a question then. How do they resolve the issue of we can see things that are more than 6,000 light years away?
I have no idea, actually.
That's the Seventh-day Adventist thing. It's they believe that the Earth itself is really, really young. It is 6,000 years old. But
but how do they resolve it on Answers in Genesis then?
I don't think they actually. The Answers in Genesis are kind of slick about this. They don't actually come up with answers to solve these problems for themselves. They just kind of point that out and say creationists probably shouldn't use this argument anymore. That's pretty much all they do. They don't actually try and solve the issue that arises as a result.
I think they said that light varies in the past. I think they said the speed of light varied in the past. Didn't say?
Which is makes about as much sense as when they said the rate of radioactive decay.
Which is kind of funny
changed
because
over time.
I mean the speed of light does vary, but that's if it goes through materials,
they're not talking about the speed of light. They're talking about the speed of light in vacuum.
Well, yeah, I know, but they could. I guess they could make a model saying, "Oh, well, there was this material that surrounded the Earth and stuff that made light travel slower. I mean, wait, no, faster. I guess."
No, it wouldn't travel faster. But anyway, if the speed of light had been different, then so would the permittivity of a vacuum, or whatever the hell that I never remember what those words are. The relationships between the strength of the electric force and the magnetic force, the different aspects of electromagnetism would have been different. So basically, you wouldn't have things like chemistry.
Okay, go ahead.
Carry on.
Yeah.
Reproduced after their kind. So, if creation is true, we should see things reproducing after their kind. If evolution is true, we should see things changing over time. See the difference there? So these are key evidence.
Stop.
Key pieces.
What's a kind?
I want to ask the chat a question. Is a dog a kind, or is a dog a wolf kind? That's because they say dog kind and they don't say wolf kind, do they? You ever notice that?
What about mammal kind?
Well, yeah, that's the other thing. It makes because classification doesn't mean shit for them, so it's kind of confusing. Like whales are bats. No, whales are fish, and bats are birds, and you know, what do you expect?
The only test I've ever seen any creationist ever try to put forward to figure out what exactly a kind is was Kent Hovind when he would put three things that kind of look similar with a banana, and then ask like a child, which one's not like the others. So that's
wait. I gotta tell you something. Litho did man tell me, which is funny. He actually made Hovind admit that I think a mollusk. A squid, an octopus was a mollusk kind. I think, if Lithodit can mention in the chat, I think it was that. Something like that. He actually made Ken Olvin say that, I think.
Okay, shall we carry on? Because there is a bit of a lag between us and the chat, so...
Sure,
yeah, carry on.
So these are key evidence, key pieces of evidence. If there's been a global flood, no two ways about it, there should be evidence for it. With creation and evolution, no matter what you believe, both ends are scary, okay? If you believe in evolution, you're dead, you're dead. That's not very fun.
So?
If creation is true and there's a God and there's an accountability, if we evolved, well, you got nothing to worry about. You can make fun of me all you want after I'm dead. I'll be too busy fertilizing dandelions. I really won't care. But I assure you, I'm very confident that I'm right. And even if I'm wrong, I got nothing to lose.
Oh,
yeah, you do.
Pascal's wager.
Hold on. Yeah, you do. I'm sorry, but when you say I can go ahead and live my entire life as a lie, as believing something that is completely and utterly not true, then that tells me that you have no value in what the truth is. If you have no value on what the truth is, then that clearly means that you are in no position to be lecturing anyone on what's true whatsoever. So if you're going to tell anyone that if I'm wrong, I've got nothing to lose, then you are telling people, if I'm wrong, then I don't care that I'm wrong. I'm still going to believe that I'm right. That's all that is. You are losing something. You are losing your integrity. You are losing the fact that you
even had any to begin with.
You are losing the fact that you are a thinking human being who's capable of exercising a mind that you believe God gave us in the first place. A mind that is capable of some extremely incredible things, extremely incredible discoveries and inventions and progress throughout all of history, and you are abandoning all of that just so you can believe something that is contrary to reality. And that is really, that is very damaging. That's very damaging to yourself. That's very damaging to everyone else who you convince that this is the case. So when he says that I have nothing to lose, I'm sorry, you have everything to lose if you are wrong. You have the entirety of humanity to lose. And another point, real quick, you can be a Christian and accept evolution. You can do that. So there's not a dichotomy here of if evolution's true, then there's no life after death. That's not true. That is not a logical leap you can actually make. That's not a fact. I'm sorry. So this is the most incredibly dishonest argument I can ever think of. And when you bring up Pascal's wager, when you bring up Pascal's wager, you are essentially bringing up the notion that belief is all that is required for you to be saved in the end, and you can encourage this belief based off of nothing, no evidence, no logic, no sort of explanations whatsoever, but simply fear that your God is totally satisfied with you believing in him just because you're afraid of what's going to happen. That he's not going to be in any way fooled. That a person might not actually believe he exists, but is going to do it anyway because, well, if I'm wrong, I'm kind of screwed, so I'm just going to go ahead and say that I do. This God's going to be satisfied with that? I don't think so. And if he is, then your God's kind of an idiot. Like a complete idiot, if that's the case. And
and also incapable of reading minds, which you would expect an omnipotent being to be perfectly capable of.
What if he is capable of reading minds and he's just satisfied with people who don't actually believe in them but say that they do? What kind of incompetence is that?
Good point.
Carry on.
Yep.
Bottom line, nothing to lose. Okay, now this is where it gets interesting. We're going to take a look at the evidence here, and what I wanted to start off with was the history. Where did this debate start? Like, how did this all come about? Does anybody want to take a stab? Where do you think the creation-evolution debate started? Anybody want to?
Stop. I would say the debate in Oxford, England in 1860 with Huxley and what's that other guy's name? Richard? Anybody remember that?
No.
I know Huxley, but I don't recall who he was debating at
It
the
was
time.
some guy named Richard who brought up the argument Hovind uses, saying, your great-great-grandfather was a monkey. And Huxley pretty much, this might be paraphrasing a lot, saying, so the fuck what? You know, pretty much.
I'd rather him be a monkey.
Yeah, Sir Richard Owens. Yeah, that's it. Sir Richard Owens versus Huxley in Oxford.
He said something along the lines of, I'd rather he be a monkey than have to worry about being related to you.
Well, yes, it was like, who gives a fuck? It was like, okay, so the fuck.
I don't think that's the answer Juby's looking for, though. I think he's going to say it was Satan in the Garden of Eden.
Let's see.
That's what Hogan says.
I'd say just a point on modern creationism. It all started in the 60s anyway.
Well, yeah, but the arguments they use is over 100 years old.
Extremely new. Actually, no. I think it's earlier than the 60s, Womble. What was that? The
Snopes trial.
Scopes trial, yeah.
That was 1920.
But
I think there has to be,
there's a key
if I may,
book to modern creationism that came out in the 60s.
1925.
Okay.
If I may, I think the distinction has to be drawn between creationists and young Earth creationists here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Scopes monkey trial, I believe, did have to do with young Earth creationism, which is a fairly new phenomena as far as history is concerned. I believe it started in the early 1900s.
I disagree, Lundy. I think it was 1860s because, as I said, the people.
They were
against theologians.
Okay. I think we're splitting hairs and things here.
Yeah.
He's about to give his answer, and that's what we're after. So.
At the time, the creationists at the time, they were okay with a form of evolution that still allowed for God. That's what they were looking for, and they were not being presented with that, so they were against that.
Yeah.
And that was the whole problem there. They didn't mind the Earth being a little bit older than it was. In fact, around that time, they were starting to investigate, biblical chronology and how the Bible was made and all these kinds of things. And they started to realize, okay, this wasn't really written by Moses. None of this stuff has any actual historical merit because we can't find anything that confirms it in any way. So a lot of it is probably not true. So they were okay with sort of skewing a little bit and saying, okay, we're not going to go with literal biblical interpretation, but we are going to make sure that everything that we discover as far as science is concerned is done by God in some way. So when you present a theory or a hypothesis that excludes God, then they're just like, no, we're not going with that. That was kind of how they were going at it in the mid-1800s. And as a sort of fear, because evolution started to gain a lot of traction around that time, because evolution started to gain a lot of traction at that time, there was a sort of fear of a growing naturalism, which is what sort of birthed the sort of what you would call modern biblical literalism, because they were very scared of what was going to happen. We're going to lose our free will. There's a lot of these philosophical problems that people were coming up with as a result of naturalism starting to become a lot more prevalent. So they decided to sort of dig in a little bit and double down on biblical literalism rather than allow science to gain any actual traction.
Okay, shall we get back to the video? We've gone a little bit off track there.
How long is this video? Wait, how long is this video actually?
It's 30 minutes. So.
Is it the one you linked me to earlier?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's actually there's 3 parts to it, and the rate we're going at, we'll never get to any of the other parts tonight. So
that's fine. We can do the other parts another day.
Yes, we can. I think it's taken up so much time addressing Juby. I think he's actually taken up the most time of any of the live ponages we've done. So let's carry on.
Debate started. Anybody want to take a try? You're all smart enough to know that maybe you don't know. Okay, that's fine because it's surprising. Believe it or not, it did not start with Darwin. And where it started is very key in understanding, well, the whole debate. It started with what we call uniformitarian geology.
No! No!
See, Lundy, after that long monologue, that's what his answer was.
Well, he's wrong,
Yeah.
and Womple, I believe, is going to explain.
Because no, the original uniformitarianism stated that everything formed by slow processes. And along came catastrophism, and everything's like, no, lots of really short, rapid things, which kind of makes creationists a little bit happy because it means that they can say, look, some geologists did think catastrophism happened, so therefore, there's people that support the flood notion. But no. Modern uniformitarianism, still has the present is the key to the past thing. But geology, we now recognise that processes are a mixture of the really slow processes that take a long time to happen and really sudden things. We know that there's lots of flash flooding and stuff like that. And we also know that when you get out to the deep ocean, sedimentation is a very slow process because you don't have much stuff making out that far. And he's just wrong.
Wait, Wobble. Isn't there two definitions of uniformitarianism? Like, I forget, one of them is by a guy named Clark, I think it was, who is what they used to define it as, which is wrong. I think it was like, I forget what it was, like, processes today were only what happened in the past.
Is the key to the past?
What?
The present is the key to the past?
No. I mean, there's two versions of uniformitarianism. I know
right.
that there's...
The geologist is saying the present is the key to the past. Therefore, that's showing you which one the geologists pay attention to.
I'm talking about what Claire mentioned. I forget his name. Clark.
I think what you're going for is this idea that these slow processes that we can observe in progress are the only things that happen, and that basically that means flash floods, for example, don't happen, and obviously they do. So it's actually a combination.
Yeah, that's what uniformitarianism used to be about. Yeah. Back when it was originally conceived, but modern geology, we accept uniformitarianism, but we also accept that actually it's a blend of that and catastrophism. You have both slow scale acting things and short scale acting things in terms of the amount of time involved. Juby and the likes of him, they kind of think that geologists only deal with slow timescale processes, and we have no way of accepting that things happen over a short time scale.
And what that's called, ladies and gentlemen, is splitting the horns of a dichotomy. Is it uniformitarianism or catastrophism? It's a little bit of both.
Yeah. But we're still under the name of uniformitarianism. That's why I specified modern and the original. This is first year degree geology, by the way, people. It doesn't take that long of studying it to be told this.
Okay, carry on.
Yep.
That's where it started all. It is what I would call, or has been, the most effective weapon that has ever been launched against the Bible, the Word of God. Uniformitarian geology has been the most effective weapon ever launched against this. Think about this for a second.
I think the Bible is a more effective weapon against the Bible.
No, it only made it go farther and wider. Did killing off anybody who dared to believe in it make it go away? Nope. Only made the Christian believers stronger. Did burning it make it go away? And banning it? Nope. Just made people want it all the more. A banned book? Oh, that's the best advertising for a book. Especially a book like this. But today, when you talk about this book as a literal history book, understand that. This is a history book of the universe and the world.
No, it isn't.
And life
it's not accepted as being a history book of Bible because it's been too edited.
If it's true, this is a history book. It's not just a theology book, it's a history book. And today, when you talk about this book as a literal history book, what's the first thing that people say?
You're full of shit.
Yeah.
The first thing that people say. Oh, the Earth is billions of years old. That silly book says it's only 6,000 years old. Clearly, it's wrong. Did you notice that? This is where it all started. It all basically started with one man. Now, I want to introduce you to three guys. You'll probably recognize their names right off the bat. Luther, Finney, and Calvin. Recognize those names? Great theologians. All three men of fine Christian upstanding, and they stood up for their beliefs and profoundly...
I think he's going to bring up Kelvin to say, Kelvin calculated the Earth has to be less than billions of years old because of thermal, I think, regulation, but he didn't know about radioactivity, right?
What?
I think that's why I brought Kelvin up, right?
I have not heard of this.
He's not talking about Kelvin, he's talking about Calvin.
Oh!
Yeah.
Yeah, as in Calvinism.
Oh.
Okay, we'll carry on then.
Because when he's saying where it all started, I'm like, where the fuck is he going? Go ahead.
And profoundly impacted the history and the course of the world. All three men were trained in the same profession. Does anybody know what they were trained as?
Christianity.
No guesses? Yes. Nope. That's what everybody thinks. Theology. That's what I thought. You got it. All three were trained as lawyers. It wasn't theology. They learned how to argue.
So colliding membranes said liars in the chat room, and lawyers, well,
Liars, there's no difference.
Wait, DPR, you're a lawyer.
So you should know.
Indeed.
Are you lying to me?
As much as we disdain lawyers, I'm starting to have a little more respect for them nowadays. Because I want to introduce you to a fourth man, again, a lawyer, Sir Charles Lyell. Also trained as a lawyer, also profoundly impacted the world, I would say for the worse. And here's how he did it. He was a lawyer, not a geologist, but he is now known as one of the founding fathers of the modern science of geology. That's kind of bizarre. How did he wind up doing that?
I think I'll come in there, like, probably because he really started off geology. Like, before then there wasn't such a field as geology, so he's kind of answering his own question there, I think. And
also, if I recall correctly, he both founded uniformitarianism and catastrophic. What the fuck? God damn it! I can't recall what it's called now.
Catastrophicism?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, he founded both of those. So when you go with one or the other, you're going with what he said.
Doing that. Well, he's the one who actually coined the phrase, the present is the key to the past. And you may not have heard that phrase before. I'm curious if anybody has. One, two. Yeah, all the older folks. Oh, we got some younger people too. Okay. He coined the phrase, the present is the key to the past. That is a loaded statement. Has anybody seen a global flood recently?
Stop!
No?
What the fuck does that have to do with any of that?
I think you're about to find out.
No? So the present is the key to the past. That means, in effect, what are you saying? There has been no global flood in the past. Did you catch that? Very, very subtle. Very subtle. But he's a lawyer. That was his tactic. It was a subtle argument. Instead, I would argue, number one, the present cannot be the key to the past. It can't be the key to the past. I'm going to show you evidence.
That means we can't know anything about the past.
Yeah.
That's what he's saying. Because we can only look at the present. We can look at the present and find clues to the past. But if he's ruling that out, then we can never know anything about the past. So what the hell is he on about?
I have a sneaky feeling that somehow he's going to get around that and say that he knows exactly what the past is. I don't know. Let's see
because he has inside information from someone who knows everything or something like that. But he can't know that, so whoa, shit! I'm gonna go all Eric Hovind here.
I'll bet money that he's going to talk about how he knows what happened in the past.
He's like, you have to know everything in order to know about the past. I think he's going to say, like Eric Hovind does.
I'm going to show you evidence why the present can't be the key to the past. I would also argue, and this is from my good friend, Professor Emmy Clark, I would argue instead the Bible is the key to the past. The Bible can be.
And how would
the
you
key
prove
to the
that
past.
if we can't
And
look
I'm
at the
firmly
past?
convinced it is. I'm going to show you why. Let's start off with some kind of dark secrets that Lyell had.
Irrelevant.
We would not have known what Lyell's intentions were, except that after he died, his sister published his private letters and correspondence. And in one of his letters, he wrote to a friend, "I had conceived of the idea 5 or 6 years ago that if ever the Mosaic chronology could be set down without giving offense, it would be done in an historical sketch." Let me translate that for you. I came up with the idea 5 or 6 years ago that if ever the history according to Moses, the Bible,
What the fuck?
could be discredited without offending its believers, I would do it by making up my own history.
What the fuck?
Who wants to respond to that?
That's all I gotta say.
I don't even know how he got that.
Yeah.
That's-
And why is this relevant? What difference does it make?
Yeah, I don't even care. You know, someone can be the worst human being in history if they had good ideas that worked, then they had good ideas that work. It doesn't really matter that they were bad people, or if they had like mischievous intent. It doesn't matter.
If it works, it works. That's like the biggest non sequitur I think I've ever seen in a PWNage there. How he jumped from that to that.
History.
Love how he brought the Bible in there for no reason.
Did you follow that at all? Let me repeat that. I came up with the idea 5 or 6 years ago that if ever I was to discredit the history according to Moses, I would do it by making up my own history.
I have to say, I think
So we would
that is the classic definition of creating a straw man.
Yeah.
There really is no better example. Like, that is perfect. I am going to take something that you said, and I'm going to turn it into something that you did not say, so that I can attack it. That is textbook what he just did.
So we would not have known his intentions. This had nothing to do with science. This had everything to do with one man's religious motivation to discredit this book.
Wait, Wombo. Wait, stop.
And so,
Wombo, can you give us a translation?
Womble's away right now.
I
She'll
want
be
to know
back
what she
soon.
would say it means. Because do any of you think you know what that means? Because I have no idea.
No.
Yeah.
He's just pulling it out of some region in his body.
And so he spent his life going around the world trying to find evidence to back up his history that he created. And I believe the Apostle Peter actually prophesied Charles Lyell, specifically, and Charles Lyell's great delusion that would come on the end of the world. Specifically in 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 3, knowing this first, in the last days there will come scoffers, walking after their own lusts, and saying, where is the promise of his coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, get this, all things continue as they were from the beginning of creation. For this they are willingly ignorant of, that by the word of God the heavens were of old, and the earth standing out of the water and in the water, whereby the world that then was, being overflowed with water, perished. Get a load of this. The Apostle Peter said that in the
Single
last
mention
days...
Charles Lyell in that whole prophecy. You suck at prophecy.
It's like the Bible code.
I hate when people say, oh, there was a prophecy in the Bible about this, and when they go over it, it had nothing to do with what was being talked about. There are going to be scoffers. No shit, there's going to be scoffers. It's called being a skeptic, asshole.
So Peter said that in the last days, scoffers would come saying, all things continue as they were since the beginning of creation. Gee, doesn't that sound an awful lot like the present is the key to the past? Do you see the connection here? And Lyell willingly was ignorant of the global flood. He was trying to discredit the history according to Moses, specifically on the grounds of the global flood. I believe the Apostle Peter actually prophesied Sir Charles Lyell and his great deception that would come in the end of the days.
Stop.
Now,
The Bible also prophesied that this apostle would not die from old age. He wouldn't have time because the earth will end before then. so I don't really care about what the Bible said.
Now, anybody know where that is? Niagara Falls? This is actually Niagara Falls. The reason I have it up there, this is where Charles Lyell, one of the places Charles Lyell visited in an attempt to back up his history. Now, what I find really ironic, a lot of anti-creationists run around criticizing us creationists, saying, oh, you're operating in pseudoscience. You've gone looking for the evidence to back up what you want to believe. Isn't it ironic that that is precisely what Charles Lyell did? So the foundations of geology and the foundations of almost all of the supposed evidence for evolution are founded in their very definition of pseudoscience.
Can I just state what I think he was trying to do with the Niagara Falls example? Because, I mean, there is a power station, I think, that was there in the early 18th century. I think that was built there, and Niagara Falls since then has moved stream since because of all the erosion. I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, was that what he means? Like over time, the falls have moved back, which would take hundreds of thousands of years to accomplish. I think.
Yeah, I think that's where he's going with it.
Very definition of pseudoscience. Evolution is a pseudoscience.
Oh.
Now, Charles Lyell went to Niagara Falls, and he must have been fascinated by what sure looked to be a really good clock, a geologic clock. When he got there, this is roughly where the falls were, that red dotted line. So basically, if you go to the falls, the water is going over the falls, and if you're looking behind, you can actually see that it's eroding out a scour in behind the falls. The reason that is because the hard top is limestone, very tough rock. Beneath that is a softer shale. So the water coming down splashes up, erodes out the shale. You wind up with a cavern in behind, and the falls collapse. And then it erodes that rock away. And so what happens is your falls slowly crawl backward every single year. While Lyell was there, he asked a local resident, he said, how fast are those falls receding? You'll notice that he did not go out and systematically measure the recession rates, as any good scientist would. He asked a local resident. The local resident said, well, I've been eyeballing it between this tree on this side and a tree on the far side, and I would say it's eroding about 3 feet per year.
He's making shit up.
So, did Lyell go and measure it? Nope. Did he use the local resident's ballpark guess? Nope. Instead, what he wrote in his book, Principles of Geology, he assumed the local was exaggerating, and he assumed that the erosion rates were actually 1 foot per year. And so, get a load of this, in his book, what he wrote was Niagara Falls is receding at 1 foot per year. It is 35,000 feet long, therefore, the gorge is 35,000 years old, and the Earth cannot be 6,000 years old. He never once mentioned the Bible.
Stop. Wait. I gotta say something really important. Right now, actually, the current erosion rate is actually 1 foot per year.
Yeah.
So pretty much, he was right. So
and it doesn't matter if some scientist or whatever, we can accept for the sake of argument that he was completely full of shit. It doesn't change anything. What he said led to scientific progress, and new things have been demonstrated since then.
Yeah.
What matters is what science actually says, not what it used to say and why it used to say that.
Yeah, I mean,
why is Womble not here when we're discussing geology?
And I think the main point is, like, he didn't have good measurement equipment. He didn't really know how to measure it at the time.
Yet he was right, apparently.
Yeah, but he's been shown to be right. I mean, it's just, science updates itself.
Mentioned the Bible. Keeping in line with his tactic that he would not offend its believers, he made up his own history. Everyone who read his book, Principles of Geology, concluded that this book was fiction. It profoundly impacted the world. And guess which one of those people, the name of one of those people who got a load of his book? Sir Charles Darwin. Got a hold of his book, Principles of Geology, read it on his voyage in the Beagle, and suddenly Darwin had his old Earth in which to place his evolutionary theory.
He was a Christian at the time. He was a Christian at the time.
He's going to say he's not a true Christian.
I don't care. He's wrong.
His evolutionary theory. So, did Lyell's science stack up to scrutiny? Or should I say his fiction? No, absolutely not. Last year, I got a call from, well, I called a good friend of mine, Iain Taylor in Ontario. He's the author of the book In the Minds of Men, which is just coming out with a new edition right now. It should be printed in a week or so. If you get a chance, get a copy. It's a phenomenal book. Heavy read. It's like that thick. It's like 550 pages. But it is just a phenomenal book. Phenomenal book. Very, very well done. I called Iain, and he was quite excited. He said, I was just going to call you. The reason he was excited was because this drawing, the first ever drawing of Niagara Falls, had just been printed in the paper that day. And so he faxed me a copy. I was in Ohio at the time. So I looked at the drawing, and I don't know about you, but it took me a minute to get my head wrapped around this drawing. I'm looking at it going, what on earth? Well, here's how it works. There's Goat Island. This is the American Falls. This is the Canadian Horseshoe Falls. We are on the New York side. That's where the drawing was made from. Now, I went down there with the goal of seeing if I could figure out where this drawing was made from. Within 15 minutes of getting there, the answer became obvious. It was instantly obvious where the drawing was made from, and the Knights of Columbus beat me to it. In 1910, the Knights of Columbus placed that monument right there at Hennepin View. Why did Knights of Columbus and myself both come to the exact same conclusion, this is where Hennepin made his drawing from? Well, it's simple. There's major landmarks in the drawing that are still there today.
I thought you couldn't tell things about the past from the present.
Yeah.
Okay, we have to lose DPR Jones. Thanks for coming along.
Thank you very much.
Thanks
Enjoy
a
the
lot.
rest of the show. Take care.
Cheers. Okay, we'll carry on.
There today. For example, this is Prospect Point. This is, notice the curve in the river with a major outcrop just before a major landing. That major landing is where the Maid of the Mist launches from today. So if you go and look for yourself. The drawing is right there on display. You can stand on the shores of the Niagara Gorge and look at the evidence for yourself. Here's Prospect Point. Now that collapsed in the 50s. It's been reconstructed, but that is essentially what it looked like. Over on the Canadian side, we're now on the Canadian side looking north down the river. There's the curve in the river, there's the outcrop of rock, and there's the landing which Maid of the Mist launches from. It's the only landing in the whole area. It's obvious where the drawing was made from. Now, when you visit there, they have drawings like this, and they claim Hennepin's Hennepin's Falls are way back here. They assume that Hennepin was exaggerating or drawing by memory. Can't be. It's too accurate. Instead, I would place Hennepin's drawing as having the falls way over here. Now, here's an aerial view. Here's where I place the falls during Hennepin's time. Here's where the falls are currently. So if we do the math, and remembering that in the past 50 years there has been essentially no erosion of the gorge, because they've put all kinds of water around the falls for hydroelectric projects. They've also deliberately reinforced the gorge so it won't erode anymore. Okay, they're trying to keep it from collapsing. So the past 50 years there has been essentially no erosion, is what I'm saying. In 270 years, the erosion has been an average, if my assumptions of Hennepin's drawing are correct, an average erosion of 12 feet per year. Was Lyell's number of 1 foot per year accurate? Hardly. Even today, before they built the hydroelectric projects, they measured the erosion rates, and it was 5 feet per year. Even that brings it well within the time frame of the 4,500 years of Noah's flood. Lyell's work was fiction, yet everybody who read Lyell's book thought it was the Bible that was fiction. It was a great deception.
And that's the end of that section.
Thank fuck.
Yeah.
We
I
really,
was only here for an hour of that, and it's just awful.
yeah, that was 30 minutes. No, 28 minutes of that. It's a shame we didn't have Womble there for the end. I think we really needed her to address those points.
Yeah.
Because I was...
It's just so fucking... The blatant dishonesty involved in being an evangelizing creationist who talks to public audiences and tells them how wrong science is and how right the Bible is. It's damaging. It really is damaging to society to do that kind of stuff. I have no problem if you want to be religious. Just accept the fact that science is correct on some things. I mean, that's all you have to do to be in my good graces at the very least. But no,
I agree.
They can't even do that. They have to sit there and lie about science, about the thing that allows them to do what it is they do on a large order. They have to lie about the thing that gives them the technology that they use to screw with it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just nothing. There's just so much awfulness involved in this kind of crap.
Anyone else coming in there?
I almost fell asleep during that last rant of his.
Yeah, I'm still
Was the point that this one observation was wrong? Therefore, everything science has ever produced is wrong? Is that what he's getting at?
I think that was the point.
Yeah, he was just trying to discredit Lyell.
Yeah, because I don't care if you discredit him. We can assume for the sake of argument that everything he said was completely made up. That doesn't change the state of where science is at this time.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to say that it seems like irrelevant, the Fall's rate of evolution, even though I bet it's bullshit, that whole story he made up about the whole, he asked someone locally and stuff. I bet actually he stayed there for a year and actually measured it, I bet, in my opinion. Because it actually is a foot a year.
Yeah. I'm still at a loss to know what his point was at the end. Anyone else want to come in there? I think everyone's falling asleep there with that. It was getting a bit boring at the end. But, a bit boring at the end.
It was.
Oh, look, I think we've got some argumentative people in the chat room as well. I suppose we can't take any callers if anyone does want to call in. I think we can stay on till the top of the hour. Add the Skype contact, Trolling with Logic. And is that Womble back? Did I hear Womble there? No, I didn't. So, any other...
First Amendment?
Yeah, any other topics you want to bring up?
Somebody asked what gives us the right to impose our opinion on audiences.
We're not. You're free to come and go as you want with our show. We're not forcing you.
Oh, wait, Lundy. You and me are in America. Not everyone lives in America.
Well, that's because they're inferior.
Yeah, but there are other countries that have similar...
I know, but I'm just saying from what, that's what
if you don't have freedom of speech in your country, then you are inferior. America. Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess we could address the things people are saying about...
Current rate. I meant the current rate is a foot.
Yeah.
The people ranting about why we're doing this and why we should, why do we care, why do we try to disprove a religion? I mean, shouldn't we just, if we truly don't believe, why don't we just shut up and not believe? It's because people are spreading bullshit and we're trying to address it.
The fact of the matter is that there's a lot of people out there who are essentially spreading the lies about science, about things that allow us to progress as a nation, as a society, as humans, as a civilization. They lie about these things, and then that causes a bit of a detriment in the future of people who could have been more productive if they had not been convinced that science is actually wrong. And they don't understand what actual science is. as a result, these people who could have been productive are no longer going to be productive. So when you debunk these people, you spread out the message of why it is that they're wrong in their message, and then there is a chance. Can't know whether or not this works completely, but there's a chance that when the truth comes out, some people who may have been convinced by the original message may be convinced by the counter message. That stuff does happen. So that alone is worth spending your time doing it. Also, it's fun.
Yeah.
And Sergio St. James, we never said that we discovered something new. What's your point? You're just being a douche.
I don't know when we ever gave the implication that we discovered anything new.
No. I certainly haven't. I think...
if anybody wishes to call in, we have about, 15 minutes left?
Just under 20.
Just a little under 15 minutes. So if anybody wishes to call in and discuss a point real quick, then just add Trolling with Logic onto your Skype. And we will be willing to get you onto the show real quick to discuss whatever point you want. Yeah. Other than that, I think one of the big things when it comes to Iain Juby, when it comes to people who I like to call them scientific solipsists in this way. People who abandon their knowledge of everything in favor of something they can't possibly gain knowledge about, by their own admission, by the way. Usually these people accept that they can't know their God, that they can't know the mind of their God, that there's a million things in their theology that they can't know because they have finite minds. Yet they're willing to accept that over the things that we can demonstrate, at least to some degree, that we have knowledge of. So why do they do this? Because, there's a bunch of reasons why. One of them is that they feel that Christianity is a good thing to keep around, and particularly their version of Christianity is a good thing to keep around. That it allows people to feel better, that it allows people to act better, that it gives good morals. I disagree with all of this, but these are some reasons why someone might spread these messages. And as far as Christianity making people act better, giving people good morals, I have to just laugh at that, because it really doesn't. I mean, you have atheists in the world who run charities that make a lot of money, that do a lot of good in this world. You have atheists who participate in raising money for people. By the way, we are going to be doing that this summer, so everybody be aware of that. So there's good reason to believe that Christianity does not make you a good person, and not being a Christian makes you a bad person. Clearly, we don't need to keep Christianity around to keep people being good people. And as far as the notion that it grants good morals, that there's good morals to be found in Christianity, I have to ask, why is anything good in Christianity? I've never seen a satisfactory answer as to why anything in Christianity makes anything good. What exactly is it? Is it because God said it? I mean, there really isn't anything. It's a bunch of commands on how to act without any real explanation other than just do what God says. That's really all it is. It's really, really, it's completely ineffective. It's completely insubstantial. It doesn't give any sort of workable moral framework. It's just, I can't understand it at all. I don't understand why anybody thinks anything good can be gleaned off of keeping Christianity around. I don't have a problem with keeping Christianity around. I have a problem with keeping fundamentalist Christianity around.
I agree with you, Lundy.
Oh boy.
So yeah, we've just got under 15 minutes. So I say if anyone does want to call in, add Skype contact Rolling with
Wait,
Logic.
can I do a shout out?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, don't forget to tune in for the Line Go show if you're able to. I don't know. After this show, I'll do a pre-show, but because heck, I got time. But also at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, we have possibly Litho Did Man. We'll have Donald from yesterday, Raw 60, whatever his number is, etc. See you then, I guess.
Okay.
Okay.
And is always a good person to have on a show. He's a very knowledgeable guy, very entertaining. In fact,
Donald?
Yeah.
Oh, Donald's a good guy. Donald's good. Donald's awesome.
Donny Curry, yeah. Yeah, very nice guy as well.
Yeah.
If anybody's aware of who Litho Man is, I will go ahead and post a link here to his YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Makes lots of very informative videos.
Oh, yeah, Litho Did Man. I thought you were talking about Donald.
All right. I've never heard of Litho.
I thought Litho Did's name is Aaron.
Yeah.
Oh, is that his real name? Okay.
Yeah, it's Aaron.
Yeah. Okay, I didn't know. So.
Yeah. I had him on with Aaron Ross, so it got a little confusing if I called him Aaron.
Just call him away.
Did anyone see Sylvia Brown's apology this week?
Who?
No.
Oh, big non-apology?
Yeah, I think I'll read it out just so you all know what happened with Sylvia Brown.
Nope.
Well, essentially what happened was she predicted that I believe it was a girl, was killed by her kidnapper, and recently the girl came back having escaped her kidnapper, so she's actually fine. And Sylvia made a quote-unquote apology to the family, and the family has apparently accepted this apology.
Okay, I've got the apology here if you want to hear it. So,
Go ahead.
Shoot.
she says, for more than 50 years, as a spiritual, psychic and guide, when called upon to either help authorities with missing person cases or to help families with questions about their loved ones, I have been more right than wrong. If there was ever a time to be grateful and relieved for being mistaken, this is that time. Only God is right all the time. My heart goes out to Amanda Berry, her family, and the other victims of the families. I wish you a peaceful recovery.
And apparently some of the families say, we love Sylvia and we appreciate everything she's done. We still support her. And how can Sylvia sit there and say that she's been wrong more than she's been right? How did you make that determination? Because I don't believe that there's been any statistic on that at all.
I think you said that wrong.
Wait, Sylvia the psychic?
She says she's been right more than she's been wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought I said that. Sorry, I must have misremembered.
And of course there is the famous when James Randi challenged her and she accepted.
And did she go
And
on?
then back out.
That was in 2001 and James Randi's still waiting a reply from her.
Yeah.
No, well, actually, she did actually speak about it and said she didn't know how to get a hold of James Randi. That's why she hasn't done it.
Contact somebody who's living.
She doesn't know how to contact him, and it's been more than 10 years.
Yeah.
And after this was presented to her, when James and her were on the same program, I believe it was on CNN.
Larry King.
Larry King.
Larry King, my bad. That was CNN. When she was on Larry King, she said, "Well, I'm not going to do it because I don't believe he actually has the $1 million." Well, before you said that you didn't even need the $1 million, so why do you even? Why are you so adamant about not?
She knows she's full of shit.
Yeah,
she really does. She knows she is. Here's what I think happened. I don't have a whole lot of evidence for this, but this has happened in the past when it comes to psychics who accept the challenge and then back out. They accept the challenge and they're told what's going to happen to test their abilities, and then when they realize that they can't use the usual tricks that they use under the conditions, then they go, "Oh crap, I'm going to be found out," and they back out.
Wait. Remember Peter Popoff? He actually was. I think Randy disproved him. Well, he was full of shit, but he still does the stuff. He makes money.
True. The thing is, Popoff didn't actually take any sort of challenge. Randy.
No, I know that, but he was the radio thing. Remember?
Yeah. I recall Peter Popoff was exposed for being a fake and a fraud, and then he just pretty much went underground for a few years and then came back and he's richer than ever.
Yeah, he's selling mana bread, isn't he now?
He's selling mana bread and holy water.
Yeah, because, well, DPR, who was on earlier, he did a good series of videos on Peter Popoff.
I think DPR said he's getting letters from Peter. No, wait, somebody is. Somebody I know is actually getting letters from him.
Yeah, because I think that's what I think DPR was encouraging people to. You could order the holy water for something. It was a few dollars or something. I think he was encouraging everyone to send it to Kent Hovind. I think that's what.
Kent Hovind?
Yeah, that's a. I think I was saying DPR did. I wish DPR was here to explain what he did, but it was quite funny how DPR went after him.
But yeah, just to note, also I forgot to mention, the topic for for tonight's show is going to be war, so pretty good topic actually.
Yeah.
And Landy, do you think you could come on if you
tonight?
Yeah.
That's about 7 o'clock Eastern Standard.
Yes.
Depending, I may be able to. That's going to be a tentative statement. And if I am, it's going to be for maybe about an hour.
Okay, that's fine. And now you're accountable for it too because you're recorded.
Yeah. Again, I did say it was tentative.
Yeah, I know. I'm just fucking with you. You know, I mean, like the show goes on for like, God, I hope it doesn't go on like yesterday. It went on for 8 hours. Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty bad.
No. I mean, 2-hour show, then 6-hour after show.
Why?
Because DPR and Bored to Bits were having a field day with this guy named Cleveland.
Oh boy.
And eventually, when Bored to Bits left, it was like, pretty much me, Donald, and Cleveland, and a guy named Hogtide, and that was it. And then pretty much like we ended the show, and that was 6 hours later.
I remember being in a Skype call with DPR. This wasn't recorded, nor was it put on YouTube or anything like that. But this is a long time ago, like I don't know, a year and a half ago, I think, maybe somewhere in the beginning of 2012. We encountered a Christian who was brought into the room because apparently he wanted to talk about his Christianity, and we came to the point where we asked him, because he had revealed a lot of stuff about his life. We said, okay, so you have a homosexual brother, and you believe that he's going to be going to hell. Do you not have a problem with that? And he said, well, yeah, of course I have a problem with it, but what am I going to do about it? Well, maybe you can just not believe that that's going to happen, since you don't have a reason to believe that in the first place. And what ensued was like 2 hours of him just going, why can't you just let me believe what I want to believe? You don't even like what you believe.
Lundy, that's actually what happened. Pretty much. That's actually what happened with this Cleveland guy. It pretty much, Cleveland, with pretty much DPR was trying to say, well, your morality is greater than God's, because he's like, well, would you send someone to hell? The whole thing. He pretty much did that, but it went on, and then went into circles and circles and circles, and yeah.
It was really bad. It was actually kind of sad, is how I would summarize that Skype call. It was very sad to see somebody sit there and say, my religion has some screwed up morals that I don't agree with, but I'm going to go with it anyway, for no real reason. I mean, it was probably one of the saddest things I had ever seen in engaging with another person who is of faith. It was the guy really. I felt really bad for the guy, because he actually believed that his brother was going to hell. He loved his brother. He didn't believe that he deserved it, but he was going to go there anyway. It was really bad. I was very sad for him. I really was.
Yeah, someone's asking to call in, so I'm just sending them Skype details. See if they will call in.
Okay.
So we only got a few minutes left in the first place, so that's going to be fun.
Yeah. I mean, if it's a decent call, we might run over, but not excessively. So, no, I've got no contact requests coming up, so we are nearing the end now. Oh, sorry.
And also, Troll with Logic, thank you for letting me on also.
No problem at all.
No problem.
I think, seeing as we mentioned Randy, we can bring up another topic right now, and that is to join us on the 6th of July for our charity show in aid of Mental Health Ireland. Marty, do you want to announce some of the really cool people we got coming on? I think.
Yeah, we've already mentioned one, I think.
Yes, we do in fact have James Randi appearing on our charity show. So you definitely don't want to miss this one.
I've been trying to get in. How do you get in contact with him?
I
messaged him on YouTube, his foundation.
Oh, you won't get through to him.
That won't go to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. But it was just like possibly if you can get Randy, I asked and stuff. And this was a while ago, but yeah.
Yeah. But you go through DJ Grothy basically. That's how you'll get to Randy. Anyway, another one that Marty's looking forward to is James Grime.
Oh yeah, the math geek from Numberphile.
Yes, and he's also Professor of Mathematics at Cambridge University. So we're going to be doing live audience interaction maths, which is going to be interesting. And
also, Tron Logic, I have an item I possibly would give up to. I mean, if my friend Whit would give it up, or a copy of it, would be an actual copy of the Bible, if he wants, of the Bible that he got the logo of the ghost from.
All right, cool.
That'd be nice.
Yep. Who else have we got? I'm trying to remember.
Eugenie Scott, right?
Yes, Eugenie Scott, president of the National Centre for Science Education, but she is she's retiring this month, sorry. I almost said resign, but she is retiring. Who else do we have? Barbara Forrest. No, silence to that one. Barbara Forrest, she's also with NCSE, and she was one of the witnesses in the Dover trial, and she wrote a book about her experience at the trial.
That's awesome.
Yeah, if any of you remember Infidel Guy, she had a fantastic show on there. You should get Judge Jones. That would be awesome. Just because Iain Juby mentioned him, and you should just show him that clip saying, "Hey, Judge Jones, what do you have to say to this guy?" And I'm just going to go. I've got the schedule somewhere here, so because I can't remember off the top of my head. Phil Moriarty, I think you guys know him, don't you?
No. Yeah, I kind of recall his name. Yeah.
Yeah, 60 Symbols. He's also been on the Magic Sandwich Show a few times. Another one, a YouTuber you may or may not know is Not in My Name.
Yes.
Yeah. Pretty one. He's very passionate.
Yeah. We are trying, it's in the early days, we're trying to get as many of the Atheist Experience hosts on at the same time. Sadly, Matt Dillahunty definitely can't make it, but we're going to try and get all of the others on. So you're going to get Aaron Ra? Aaron Ra, well, our schedule's almost complete, Strife, so...
Oh.
Who else
we do have Richard Coughlin.
Yes.
Yes.
Don't think we're all familiar with him.
Had a very entertaining hour last year, so we're planning on
go into our archive and look up the hour he had last year with our very sophisticated and suave de Maxman. We all know him. Love him for that.
And all the technical errors that occurred as a result.
Yes. And we've got a recent guest that's returning, Dr. Stephen Law. Lundy, you can talk a bit about him.
Oh yes, Dr. Stephen Law, who I have a philosophical man crush on. He's a fantastic.
He's awesome.
Philosopher. I believe he edits the philosophy journal Think. And he's very skilled. He's very he's very articulate. He's very everything that I'm not, well spoken and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's him.
But I love him because he can explain philosophy and basically not make your eyes glaze over. He engages people very well on the subject. I mean, he is really good at that.
Very good at appealing to a general audience.
Yeah, he really breaks it down for the layperson very, very well. And who else is on our list?
If you can get William Lane Craig, that'd be impressive.
You're just pulling random names now. Joe Zemeckis going to be coming back as well. We all know and love Joe as well.
Yep.
And just seeing anyone else I've missed out. Michael Nugent, he's making a return.
Oh, yeah.
And Nugent he's another just generally awesome guy. And I think that's everyone, isn't it? No, and we're just waiting back. He said he may be able to do it, so we're waiting. Do you know Miles Power M? No one knows him. He runs a kind of skeptic channel that's worth watching. So, everyone, I'm seeing everyone. Well, what are you guys talking about right now? So, all the people we've been talking about are the people who are going to be on our marathon charity show on the 6th of July. So, mark up your diaries. It's 6th of July, and we're starting slightly earlier this year because we got too many guests. We've got more than 12. So, we'll be starting at 5 p.m. British time, which is midday for you, Lundy, I think, isn't it?
You said 5. What time British time?
5 p.m. So I think that's
5 p.m.
5 p.m.
It means it's 1 o'clock American time.
That would be around noon, Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah, Eastern.
Yeah, so everyone mark your diaries up for that. We'll announce everything officially. Like, we're still just tweaking the lineup right now, and it's in aid of Mental Health Ireland. I'm pretty sure you know it was Kitch's choice due to Kitch sadly losing one of his best friends to suicide a few years ago. So that's why that charity was chosen this year. So that's it. That's the announcement for the charity show. Also, the Idiot of the Year award will be announced then, and there's a lot of good contenders, and we'll start that officially soon. You get to just vote for the dumbest person of the year.
Iain Juby.
Mike Adams.
Oh, Mike Adams, yeah.
Definitely Mike Adams.
So yeah, we will see you all next time.
Yeah, and I'll be getting off starting my pre-show. So see you guys.
I'm just going to let everyone know we are back on. We're back on the 9th of June. We don't have a guest booked for that, but we'll announce one in time. We're taking a little break now because I think we've been on every weekend since February or something like that. And we just need a wee break from this. So, everyone, we'll see you soon. I hope you enjoyed the show, and take care, everyone. Go check out Magic Sandwich Show right now, and then go check out the Line Ghost Show later. So good night, everyone. Have a good evening.
Bye.
Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to Trolling with Logic for 19th of May 2013, 6 p.m. in the UK, 1 p.m. Eastern Time in the States. Just to let you know, today we won't be taking calls. It's the famous live PWNage, and our target today is none other than Wazulu, also known as Iain Juby. So, very quickly introduce my panel. Daniel Jackson.
Hello.
Teal'c.
Hi.
You should have said Indeed there.
Yeah, it should have been an Indeed.
Yeah, I don't watch Stargate.
Just say Indeed. Just say Indeed. Go Indeed.
Indeed.
No, deeper.
Better.
I just know I'm supposed to be the black guy because I'm the whitest guy alive. so how about Indeed, motherfucker? How's that? Okay.
Okay.
I've been racist too.
Okay. Introducing Vala.
Ooh, treasure.
And special guest today, DPR Jones. Welcome, DPR.
Indeed.
There you go. Okay, so the format's fairly familiar. We'll be playing Iain Juby's video. Listen in. If you spot something wrong, just shout stop. I'll stop the video and you can explain why he's wrong. So is everyone ready for this?
I don't know if I've got enough alcohol, but go for it.
All right.
Video series. I want it to be an exhaustive video encyclopedia, in effect. And I called it The Complete Creation. Posted the first video on YouTube, which I was very frustrated with by the time I got it finished. And it became #5 most discussed video on YouTube within 3 weeks. So it was really encouraging in that regard. And I know Dr. Scudder and Pastor Scudder had asked if I could come back and do a lecture series for Dayspring. And so I contacted them and said, look, I'm spending 30 to 50 hours for every half-hour session here. If I'm just going to reinvent the wheel, why don't we do it here and record it? So I really appreciate the kind camera crews and this church for hosting this event. And I'm going to start off where I started with the original video, and that is just, #1, what is creation and evolution, and who cares? I'm a very practically minded person, and even with Christianity, if your Christianity...
He's not a practically minded person, he's a simple-minded person.
I was contemplating getting us to stop early on as soon as he started speaking, just on general principle.
Yeah.
If your Christianity, where does your Christianity cause your rubber to meet the road? How does Christianity affect your life? If it doesn't affect your life, why are you a Christian? See?
It doesn't, and I'm not.
Literally compressed, cooled into a solid ball.
Stop!
Now,
that is not how planets form. It's not molten
He's
material.
missing a lot, isn't he? He's missing...
It's gas that builds up into...
Stars formed around the stars, you know, the protostar, and then the debris that was...
It starts as protoplanetary dust. And then what happens is, this is in the gas nebula, it starts as protoplanetary dust, it then starts colliding, making bigger and bigger lumps. And as these bigger and bigger lumps start slamming into each other, they're producing...
Someone say it. Someone say it.
That they melt. Sorry, say what?
It. You know.
You know what.
What?
Do I have to?
Space station?
No.
Gravity!
Oh, that.
Yeah, these things are slamming into each other, and you get a magma ocean phase, but that's because the surface is so hot from all the impacts. But it's not like this massive ball of floating rock that's molten in space all the time, constantly. So
Yeah, we have asteroids and meteoroids that are solid rock, and they're not molten anymore. So yeah.
I think we
cooled
can continue.
into a solid ball, which now became Earth. Life somehow came about from non-life. In other words, life came from a rock.
Stop.
What?
Stop. But life is made up of compounds like elements and stuff. And are elements alive? No. It's their arrangement that is what we determine as living or not, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's not like not like saying, oh, this proton's dead. No.
Yeah, exactly. We all consist of materials that are not alive. It's the collection of it that is alive.
It's the arrangement that matters. Like, I mean,
and also the basic point of the material. You wouldn't have got the materials to form life coming straight from a rock. It would have been subjected to erosion and weathering processes before it was in a position where the matter, the elements, could be reconverged into whatever living animate object it became.
Well, I don't know.
And also, non-life does not equal rock.
Yeah.
Is he implying that water is a rock? I mean,
it's more of like a solution, I guess you could say. Early life would have been more like a solution.
Primordial soup.
Well, yes, but they'll say from soup to you, and they're like, oh, well, so did you know that your great-great-great-great-grandfather was soup? They'll say.
Yes, because my great-great-grandfather was made.
You know what I mean? Great times, blah, 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 yeah.
Where its life came from a rock. Think of it that way. Via an unknown supernatural process. Now, I offended a whole pile of evolutionists by saying...
Stop. Wait.
I have all the evidence for how it happened,
supernatural processes.
but it wasn't supernatural.
Yeah.
Evolutionists by saying that, okay? Evolutionists believe in the supernatural, they just don't know it. Okay? So again, I'm going to explain that why later when we get into the biology of it. And I'll show you there. I touched on that a little bit last night. It operates on genetic drift and mutation.
That supernatural explanation that he's talking about, it's called chemistry. And last time I checked, it wasn't supernatural.
Teal, he thinks chemicals can't come together is
Oh,
supernatural.
that's right. That's right. Oh, I forgot who we were talking about.
I bet he thinks I don't know, getting acid is supernatural when you make hydraulic acid. What's it called?
You mean hydrochloric acid?
Hydraulic acid. He's like,
Hydrochloric.
oh my God,
Hydraulic acid doesn't exist. Sorry, nitpicking, but
I love to do that. I love to like say, hey, Ian, here's one half of the chemicals. Here's another. Put them in your hand. Same time. Let it burn through your hand. Was that supernatural?
no. If you really want to mess them up, you would use hydrofluoric acid.
Which is
That
the one
stuff
that
is
burns
really
through
nasty.
the ground practically. The one that pretty much will burn you.
That's just really, really, really nasty. But just really unstable.
I thought it was battery acid.
It operates on genetic drift and mutations combined with natural selection to turn a few simple organisms into the diverse, complex life we see today. So the key points there, genetic drift, mutations, and natural selection. And, of course, this took many, many, many hundreds of millions of years. Evolution is a slow process.
Stop.
And that's where we're going.
Stop.
I have to congratulate him. He almost got 3 things in a row correct.
Yeah.
Good for you, Ian.
Yeah, credit where credit's due.
He now needs to go lie down.
Yeah, I think my head's gonna explode by this this revelation.
And we have our first
that's where we're
troll.
gonna start today, those old ages. Now, creation, is of course known by a number of names: scientific creation, biblical creation, creationism, special creation.
Stupidity.
It is based on the biblical
intelligent
account
design
of creation. Genesis chapter 1 in the Bible. There are a number of.
I'm just curious.
There's at the bottom of the slide he just showed. It said there was a global flood 4,500 years ago.
There's no evidence for one.
Well, yeah. Also, my question is, why does creationism need all these different pseudo-names, while evolution has this one pseudo-name, I guess you could say?
Because they're trying to compromise. It's like, they say about people that drive really, really expensive cars, and how they're trying to compensate for, a lack of size in a certain part of their anatomy if they're male. And that's what they're trying to do. Think, hey, we've got more names. We're more important than you. And speaking of names, I've seen someone called Subduction Zone in the chat. Kudos to that person.
Someone's name Subductions. Oh, yeah, I see it. Yeah.
Number of creation myths, as they refer to them as, and we might touch on those a little throughout the series because they're kind of interesting. Myths usually have a basis in reality.
They're very uninteresting.
Did you see? Wait. Did you guys see the sign he had for Dinosaur Crossing?
No, I didn't.
It was right on the left, right on the right-hand side. You see a picture of a brontosaurus, and it's like Dinosaur Crossing. I'm like, Ian, if there's a Dinosaur Crossing, I think it's a bunch of ostriches. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Though I do hope they pick his
reality,
eyes out.
And they've been warped throughout the years as it's been handed down generation to generation. It gets changed and modified. Vishnu, the fish god, for instance, we're going to touch on that, and I'm going to show you why I'm convinced.
All of man is actually an allegory for just human nature being flawed or something, and that's why Jesus was necessary. So it works. If you're a Christian, you're gonna make it work.
But most people don't stop to think about it, so we're going to cover that. Evolution claims that the universe and planets basically arose from a giant explosion.
Stop.
He's mixing, astronomy and cosmology and that with biology. No.
Yeah. Now, I mean, evolution simply means.
Sorry, was that slide that just disappeared? Was that literally the one that Kent Hovind uses?
I think either that or he's copied the content of it.
It says 20 billion years, I think it said before I lost it. So 20 billion years the universe began from an explosion.
No, it's 13.7 billion years, and it was
I know, but they like rounding up. Don't know why, but they like rounding up.
But if you're going to round it up, you round up to 14.
No, I meant they like to round up to a number that's divisible by 10, I guess.
Womble, you're
the
showing
Big
a
Bang
remarkable
some
ignorance
20
of
billion years
creationist
ago.
mathematics. If they're going to round up, they round up to whatever's
It's
convenient.
what it is.
Big
I just
giant
blanked out.
explosion.
It causes me that much trauma that to survive on a daily basis, I blank it out.
The funny thing is, they got the Earth age of the Earth right. They got 4.5, but yet they say 20 billion years from an explosion.
4.6 is closer to.
Well, I mean, still pretty good for how old is this video?
Yeah, you got to give it to him. It's pretty good for a creationist.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, yes.
Because it's only a small number. It doesn't go into double digits,
Oh yeah.
relatively
Yeah.
speaking.
Okay.
What's a billion years among friends? It's around there, okay? The Earth cooled into a solid ball roughly 4.5 billion years ago. So you had this massive explosion.
Has nothing to do with evolution.
Not only that, it's not very cold. Actually, I'm sure Womble will tell us the temperature of the.
Oh,
Yeah.
The surface temperature of the Earth, I'm not sure. I think the average is about like 15 degrees centigrade.
Yeah.
But that's because we've got the carbon dioxide blanketing the planet to give us, a mild greenhouse effect. But we're now spewing more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, and we're going to ramp up the temperature.
No, I was asking. He said it cooled into the solid planet. Cooled. You only have to go a few miles below the surface, and it starts heating up quite dramatically, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, the core of the planet is hotter than the surface of the sun. The geothermal gradient goes up, and it is in continental rock. I can't remember off the top of my head what it is under oceanic crust.
I think it's
So
20
in
miles.
continental crust, it's 30 degrees centigrade per kilometre down. So if you're going into a mine that's 2 kilometres down, that's 60 degrees centigrade.
That
you go
doesn't
with
go
the-
all the way down, though, right? It
had all this
begins to
molten-
rise exponentially eventually, right?
Yeah,
Or
I mean,
at least,
it depends
at
on
a higher rate, anyway.
It's going to depend on the conditions of the material inside. Solid rock is a pretty poor conductor of heat and temperature, but when you start getting into the mantle, and when you've got the really funky conditions, and you're talking about conditions where solid rock will flow, we're talking about masses and masses amounts of geological time that it flows, but it still flows because of the really
plastic,
funky heat and pressure conditions.
material, yeah.
You had all this molten material floating around space that why it matters, okay? Now, first things first, creation and evolution is an attempt, they're both an attempt, to answer the 4 great questions of life. Who am I? Why am I here?
Stop.
Wrong.
No.
Stop.
No.
Stop.
Evolution isn't to do anything
Stop
to do with that. It's to
travesty.
understand the variation of organisms.
Is he doing the Eric Coven approach?
Yeah.
Yeah, they spew bullshit and baffle them with it.
Is he going to say cosmic evolution and stellar evolution, chemical evolution, and biological evolution are all things of faith? I think.
I don't know if he does it in this video.
Oh.
DPR, did you have a point there?
I think it's the same point that Womble made, namely that evolution deals with only one thing and one thing only. I don't know what he's about to say, but I just know it's going to be wrong.
Yeah.
Why am I here? Where did I come from? And where
Stop.
am I going?
I told you so. I'm sorry. Nothing to do with fucking. I'm sorry. Nothing to do with evolution.
Oh, no.
End of. Carry on.
The 4 great questions of life. Now, evolution attempts to explain this without
Stop.
the creator God.
No, the reason I said stop there was you would have seen in the background he's got his dinosaur eggs. Some are in a circle and some are in a straight line. Potholder 54 did a wonderful debunking of this nonsense, but
You
basically,
can't lay an egg while you're running.
I know that if he comes to it, I'm going to preemptively say this. He's going to say that the ones in a straight line are evidence of the flood because the dinosaur laid eggs as it was running away from rising water. I kid you not. Anyway.
I think
I
we've all heard
watched
that
this
one.
earlier. No, he doesn't, thankfully.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
No, it's a good thing to pick it up, though. It's always good to remind people why he's wrong.
This without a creator God. I'm going to justify that statement later on because there are a number of people out there who believe that evolution can be fit into the Bible.
I got to say it now. We don't believe, we accept, based on evidence.
No, I was going to raise a slightly different point. That jacket is just wrong.
There's a reason he's called Crocodile Fundy.
Okay.
Into the Bible, that evolution can be fit into Christianity. I'm going to show you over the next several days why that's just simply impossible. Why that's bad science and bad theology. Okay, it's horrible theology and horrible science. But most people don't.
Since when was evolution theology? Is that what he's referring to?
No, he was referring. He thinks that it's impossible to accept evolution and be a Christian at the same time. It's bad theology.
Well, I don't think they give a shit if they believe both, do they? They accept the evidence.
Well, I've come across plenty of Christians who accept evolution, and they don't seem to have a problem with it. Yeah. The only issue is, do you have to take Genesis literally? And there are plenty of versions of that, which basically you interpret it as, well, it's the fall.